Welcome to Sober.Coffee, a weekly coffee chat sharing experience, strength, and hope for anyone on the sober road to recovery. You can download Sober.Coffee weekly on all podcast platforms and check us out on Instagram at Sober.Coffee Podcast and on Twitter at Sober.Coffee Pod. To learn more about us and to help support these sessions, visit online at Sober.Coffee. Here are your hosts, two guys on their own path to recovery, Mike and Glenn. Let's join them at the coffee shop.
Good morning, Glenn. How you doing today?
Mikey, doing great, man. Always love grabbing coffee with you at Sober.Coffee.
No, here we are again.
Another cup.
Yeah, we got our seats secure at the coffee shop. Our normal table for two.
I know. I'm starting to notice some people trying to lean over and listen in a little bit.
Yeah, right. Yeah. There we go. I think they call it in podcast world. They call that a download. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, right.
We're still learning.
I know we had one last week, and my mom, so she liked it.
God, I love your mom.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
So listen. I called this coffee this morning because you shared a story a couple of weeks ago about the Ferris Wheel. And I loved it, and so I want to hear it again because I got stuff that I wanted to write down, and as soon as you started talking about the Ferris Wheel, I started thinking about the merry-go-round, right? So that's what I think my drinking career was. It was a merry-go-round. I got on it, started out slow, and my foot was kind of dragging along a little bit, and then I picked up a little more speed, and. Well, long story short, Glenn, before I knew it, I was spinning around on that thing so fast, it literally threw me off. It threw me off it, and I ended up on the ground with scraped knees and a scraped face.
Scars, huh?
Yeah, right. I had scars. But you had a more pleasant scenario in your Ferris wheel analogy. So I hate to put you on the spot, but can you share that for me this morning?
Yeah, it's funny. Mike, as we share stories, there are not a lot of original thoughts. Mm-hmm. A lot of stuff that we regurgitate back and forth. We hear from the rooms, and you can hear it in California, you can hear it in Kentucky. The same story, the same lines, and this is probably my only original thought that I've ever had in sobriety. But yeah, if we look at the experience, I'll try to break this down: experience, strength, and hope. Like we always do, but if you look at the experience, I drank to escape life. Mm-hmm. And in fact, it finally hit me as I was reading the big book, on page 556, upper left-hand side. I set my expectations really high, and then my performance was lower than those expectations, and that gap, between performance and expectations, because I'm very grandiose, $1 billion idea guy, right? So they're up there high, right? And my performance was low, and I just couldn't handle that gap, right?
The stress, right?
Oh, it was just failure or being less than, or whatever term that you want to use. So I would drink to escape that feeling of that gap, right? And then when I drank, and this is that crazy cycle, when I drank because of that, my ideas got more grandiose, right? So my expectations went higher.
Sure.
And because I'm drunk, I'm blowing a 3.8. Now my performance is even worse.
Sure.
So that gap's bigger.
Yeah, right.
And I want to drink more because I want to escape that, right? So that's kind of a snapshot or a picture of how I or why I drank, right?
Right.
Just to escape life. And here's a snapshot, and some folks don't agree with this, and I don't really care. For my first year of sobriety, I took Antabuse. And for those that don't know what Antabuse is, it's a pill that you take. It stays in your system it stays in your blood vessels and in your system for 14 days. And it has no effect on your body whatsoever. No side effects unless you drink. If you drink, that drug mixed with the alcohol, the way that it metabolizes, it gets you sick. In fact, some people have died from it. It gets you so sick. So, I couldn't stay sober, right? And so I included that as one of the 22 things that I did to get sober. And I used it for a safety net, And there's some pure 12-steppers who are like, oh my gosh, that's not really the, and I'm like, fuck them, right? So I took it because I was doing everything I could to stay sober. And what it did was it helped me identify my fuck it moments, right? And as I lived life and I could do great and I'd go through my day and everything would be okay. Nothing was great at that time, but it was okay. And then all of a sudden, something threw me sideways. And it was typically, that gap, right?
And it could have been a good thing, could have been a bad thing.
Absolutely,
it didn't matter.
Right.
You just found yourself sideways.
Crazy. So I found myself sideways, and that's where I used to say, fuck it, I'm just going to go drink.
Just going to go drink.
And I'll deal with it later.
Right.
And at that point, it was like, well, what hospital am I going to now, right? I hope they have my room ready for me. So it really helped me identify that. And now, when I'm like, I'm going to drink, and I'm like, at that fucking moment, now I'm like, well, now I can't drink because I'm on antabuse.
Yeah, right.
And I got to the point where I'd almost laugh at myself, right? But it was a really good learning point because I learned to identify the things that would throw me off.
That's right.
And then, like, I'm right in the middle of a fucking moment. I can't drink. I actually started chuckling, and now I'm like, well, now what? Now I've got to deal with it, right? So now I started using tools of the program. I pick up the phone. I call my sponsor, right? I'd pull myself out of a situation. I'd pause and I'd
pause, pray, proceed.
Well, at the time I didn't pray, so I just paused.
Right. Right.
And what I learned is I had to get the tools, right? And over the course of a year, I really learned how to identify and then what tools I needed during whatever situation it was, right? So as I look at those tools and we kind of switch gears here to strength, right? A guy in the room, we call him Dr. John. You know him very well. Great guy. And he mentioned one day about suffering better, right? And at first I'm like, that's dumb, man. I don't want to suffer.
Yeah,
I didn't sign up for this to suffer.
I didn't sign up for that. Right.
All the hope and shit that I believed in for sobriety didn't include the word suffering, But I related to that. And I really said, okay. So I started getting my head around this suffering better and what does that mean? And hey, there were days, maybe other people wouldn't think I was suffering, but I was suffering, And that's why I used to drink, to escape that suffering. So there was one day I was looking around, I saw this picture of a Ferris wheel. And I'm telling you, Mikey, it is the sexiest Ferris wheel that you've ever seen. It's golden, and it's up on a, and I have a picture in my office, right, of this Ferris wheel. It's big gold Ferris wheel on a bright, beautiful blue sky. And it's gold and has big cars, right? And I started relating my suffering better and my life to that Ferris wheel. And there's not a day that goes by that I don't relate to that Ferris wheel. And when I go through situations, when I get on tough calls at work, when I'm cranky with my wonderful wife, when the kids are sending me sideways, I relate to that Ferris wheel. And here's why. My life is, I'm riding that Ferris wheel. And yeah, I picked a really good, sexy looking one, but there's times that I'm on the top, where my day is going great and everything, the wind's at my back, everything is going great.
You're liking the view.
The view's wonderful. I can see for miles, blue sky, nice little breeze, 72 degrees. Everything's perfect, right? And there's also times, days, hours, minutes, weeks, when I'm at the bottom, right? And we all know what it's like at the bottom, right? There's the ugly people in line that are looking at us saying, get off, I want to get on. You're smelling the fumes from the engine, you're looking down, you see all the trash that's down there, and all you want to be is back on top,
right?
And I hate that point at the bottom, right? Then what's even worse for me, and you're getting to know me.
Oh, here we go.
Being in the middle.
You don't like the middle.
being in the middle's average, right? It's your average, boring, cloudy Tuesday afternoon where I got a break in my schedule, and I'm bored.
You don't aspire to be a 5?
I hate 5. And hey, now that I'm into the first wheel, I'm very aware that I hate 5s, and so what I've learned, I took that suffer better, right? And if I'm at the bottom or if I'm in the middle, that's not where my brain wants me. My brain wants me to be on top, right? But that's not realistic, right? So what I've learned on this first wheel is that the first wheel always moves. And I have enough facts in my life and watching and working with others that the first wheel always moves. And that means when I'm at the bottom and I'm smelling those fumes and it's absolutely a shit period of time, whether it's minutes, hours, days, whatever, I tell myself, and I look at that first wheel and I'm like, Mikey, the first wheel's going to move. And I also do that when I'm right in the middle. On those Tuesday afternoons, and I am sideways, and things just aren't clicking for me. And I mean, I used to drink. I used to drink, or if I had 4 hours of phone calls, and that's a 5 for me. And just plug through them. I know, just get through it. Just suffer through this better, because the first wheel is going to move.
Always, it's surety.
But then I also tell myself that when I'm at the top and I'm having a good 2 days and things are really, really going great, I remind myself, Glenn, it's not you. This isn't of you, So I check my ego, right? And I also remind myself, enjoy it. I'm not negative Nancy. You know me. I look at things in a positive way. But I tell myself, in a realistic way, to set my expectations, first wheel's going to move.
Right.
I'm not going to be on the top forever. So I use that on a regular daily basis, man, just to really dial me in on how I look at life. It helps me suffer better, enjoy the high moments, but it's just a relatable with the picture. And we'll have to post it on the website.
I love it. There's another thing that you shared about the Ferris wheel that really inspired me, and that is who's in the car with you, right?
Yeah, so,
and I love that because you're not in that Ferris wheel alone. You're not.
Yeah, it's funny, and the first wheel that I have has really nice, sexy looking big gold cars, right? Sure. And in my mind, it seats about 10 people, right? And this takes me back to my rehab, one of my rehabs in 2014, and the counselor has me stand up in front of the room, big dry erase board. He says, "Glenn, I want you to draw a circle." I said, "Okay." I drew a big circle. He goes, "I want you to write everybody's name in that circle who is on your team today." And I almost started crying because I couldn't come up with any names. And I literally stood there for a minute, and everybody's looking, and I mean, it was an awkward moment, and I said to myself, "Hey, I got to put something down, right?" So I put my own name down.
Okay.
In that circle, and so that started to frame with me. It's very important who's on my team, right? It's very important who I'm on the first wheel with, who is in the car with me. And the first thing I had to do, which is very important for me, a key point actually, in fact, if you ask my sponsor, it's the key point, I had to get people out of the car.
That were dragging you down.
Yeah, that weren't helping me, right? And, I just had to get them out, and that was tough. That was hard. It was painful. I had a relationship I had to get out of. It was crushing me, crushing my sobriety. So it's important who's in that car, get people out. That's what I had to do. And then I'm very selective as to who is in the car with me. They always say you are who you hang with, right? It's one of our great sayings. Well, I want to hang with winners.
Right.
I want to hang with people that are doing things purposely, doing actions, trying to maximize their life, living their purpose, whatever that purpose is, and they're in the car with me. So my sponsors in that car with me. You're in that car with me. My higher power's in that car with me. My wife and my kids, and that guy that I surrendered to back in my rehab program in 2005, he's in that car with me, right? So now it's funny because now if I were to go up to that dry race board today, I wouldn't be able to draw enough circles, and there's 30 phone numbers that I have in my phone of guys that I can pick up and call at 2 a.m. And all I got to say is the word help. Hey, I need help with something. I need help. I'm struggling. And there's 30 people. I mean, that's how this thing works. We don't have to do this alone anymore.
Right.
So that whole Ferris wheel, I mean, that's kind of how I looked, and it gives me hope, Mike. It gives me hope that, I can get through any situation today without having to take a drink. One thing to underline is, and I'll say it again, I don't go through things alone, right? I reach out to people and I say, hey, I need help with this, or what do you think about this? Because I know the results I get. I have enough proof, the results I get when I do things on my own. So that's kind of, I use the Ferris wheel story.
I love it.
It's a really sexy looking Ferris wheel, and it's something that I relate to, every single day.
It's good stuff. And, for me, my takeaway is how, as you painted that story, how you accept where you are in the Ferris wheel. And it doesn't mean that you're happy that you're at the bottom or at a 5 or in the middle, but you accept where you're at with an understanding that it's been proven out enough times that you're going to be back at the top. Maybe today, maybe tomorrow, maybe next week, but there will be a top view. There'll be that good view. And I appreciate it. And I love the Suffering Better thing. It's not all roses and daisies, and it's not all top of the Ferris wheel. It's absolutely, there are times where life hands you life, and you've just got to learn to persevere through that. But again, not doing it. Just multitude of points that you brought up. Really appreciate that, Glenn. I got nothing more, man.
We'll post that picture up.
Post that picture up because that's
folks
good
can
stuff.
see that. Yeah. It's really cool
Thanks
stuff.
for sharing that, Glenn.
Yeah, you got it, man. I'm looking forward to our next coffee.
That was awesome. Thanks, man.
All right, brother.
All right, see
Take
you.
care, man.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us for today's coffee chat. To contact the show, email us at podcast@sober.coffee. If you need immediate help, the AA hotline is 800-839-1686. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 800-273-8255. Remember, Mike and Glenn are sharing their own journey on the path to recovery. Any suggestions, medical or otherwise, are their own experiences and should not be viewed as professional advice. See you next week, and remember, there is a solution.